Today we have Ali on the show. Ali is a male hormone specialist who works with males to get them jacked and get them feeling their best life. And I wanted to bring her on because she has tons of experience. She works with a lot of professionals and she has helped many men get their health back. And I think that one of the reasons why it intrigued me to bring her on is because I've also followed her transformation over the past couple of years from her coach. And I think that she has a lot of good information because she's been on the journey with the client from the beginning, in the middle to the end. So she's seen the whole gamut of the nutrition to when someone walks in at 30% body fat to now going on hormones. She's helped many clients get to that level and figure out how to get to the peak optimization. And I think that there's a lot of everyday things that she's going to be able to help us kind of help you guys really get to what you guys can do on a daily basis to optimize your health and then look through the transitions to where you can make the changes. So Ali, I'll let you give the intro because I'm terrible at giving intro. I like the client to just, the person here to give us the intro. Go ahead.
No, totally fine. Usually because it's like some outdated bio that's on some site somewhere anyway. I always keep these very brief. So don't worry, anybody watching or listening, I'm not going to bore you. But just so you understand where I'm coming from, I do have a degree in exercise science. And that has given me the insight into wanting to train athletes out of college. And then I realized that they're all broke. I decided, well, my hometown has a lot of guys that play golf. I'll start getting into golf fitness. And golf fitness has a unique niche into it where guys take it very seriously. They can afford to train. This is back in 2008. And training all these golfers, I had all male clientele, and a lot of them don't discuss nutrition and hormones and all that stuff. And all those conversations kept coming up. I was like, nobody's really tackling this and nobody really talks about this openly. So I kind of dove headfirst into everything men's health, learned as much as I could, networked with physicians, went through all the processes. And here we are, fast forward 2023. I run an online coaching business with 3 coaches that really optimizes men. Like you said, we focus on getting guys who maybe tried to get lean or jacked and did it the wrong way. And we help facilitate the discussion surrounding testosterone replacement therapy because it is such a taboo subject, even though it's starting to get a lot better and more openly talked about. Men don't necessarily feel comfortable talking about this the way that women do, very much socially. I kind of diffuse the awkward nature, talk about boner health and all those things with guys, how that relates to their health, and then how taking care of their fitness can actually make this whole 360 approach really work for somebody so that they can perform the best they ever could in the bedroom, in life, in the business room, blah, 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 all that stuff.
Yeah, no, I think that, we talk about that a lot with our clients is that it's taboo to talk about TRT, but it's because we don't start testing it unless we ask in Canada, right? Whereas we test cholesterol, we test our thyroid, but when it comes to testosterone, nobody's checking it over the years to see if it's actually dropping to figure out what your normal dose is. And then if your normal testosterone was a certain percentage and it drops, it's taboo to take more to get you back to just what your normal range was. Let's talk about the trend, the first step. What I would like to know is before you talk to TRT, because I'm sure that you meet clients who walk in and say, hey, I want to go on TRT. What are some things that you make them do to prepare for TRT that are non-negotiables as a first step to saying, hey, if we want to get back your health and optimize your body, we need these 3 to 5 things to be done first before we even look at TRT?
Sure. In the fitness industry, there's this term called GPP, which stands for General Physical Preparation. And that's usually done to prepare somebody physically for their sport. However, I have adopted that and turned it into GPP for TRT to prepare men to get them as resilient and healthy as possible for testosterone replacement because it works a lot better if a guy is healthy and a lower body fat percentage. When a guy brings this topic up, or if I think they may be a good candidate for it, addressing their health are things they're going to have to do no matter what, whether they decide to go on TRT or not. If they're not addressing their nutrition, and that means, are they even tracking their food? Do they know what they're eating? We start there because that is really a big step for a lot of people because they don't want to really confront what they're actually eating. Even if it's usually women who are stereotyped as the ones who are eating off their kids' plates, a lot of guys do that too, but they don't track it. They're having a little bite here, a little lick there. Oh, the kid didn't finish his chicken fingers. I'm going to finish those. And it adds up quite quickly. Every guy that we've had track their food who has not tracked it is blown away by how much they forgot they're eating. Because by the end of the day, like you're air macroing, you're like, oh, I didn't really eat that much. Oh, shit, I actually ate a ton. We start there. And then usually guys are afraid to do cardio exercise. They think that it'll make them smaller, that their muscles will fall off. We start them there as well, because having a platform of aerobic conditioning, being healthy and doing low intensity stuff, like the boring, I call it Netflix cardio, where it's kind of mindless. You could have a conversation. Getting them healthy in that sense will help get body fat down. And then they become even healthier and better able to tolerate things like carbohydrates, more intense exercise. And as a byproduct of all of this, their sleep will become a lot better, their recovery, their mood, all those things. Then we can look at, are we in a good position to maybe take on testosterone replacement? Because if a guy goes on TRT right away and he's very unhealthy, he may not have the best time on it and want to come off because he says, oh, TRT didn't work so well for me because I had side effects. What are those side effects? Because everyone's like, oh, no, side effects. And that can be just mood swings and extra water retention and things that they just don't expect, that maybe they don't feel as good. And that's more so because of the inflammation from body fat, because body fat is the most inflammatory tissue in the body. So that, coupled with a poor condition aerobically and muscular wise, can make for not so fun experience on testosterone. We position them to get in the most healthy, resilient state that they can. And you know what? Sometimes, yes, guys will go on testosterone at the same time, and that's okay, as long as they understand what to expect, how this will work and look for in the future. That's our approach.
So let's go back there for a second. When you say to me that you check their nutrition and you make them do cardio, you want them just to track their calories first, right? And then obviously you're going to get their protein up, right? Because most people undereat protein. And then you want them to be consistent for what, 30 days, 45 days, 60 days. Like, I think people need to hear the transition of time that this takes, right? Your journey, even my journey, has taken me 3 years to kind of get to where I want it to be. I guess if you could give us an example of one of the clients you've worked with, would it be 60 days, 90 days? How long did it take them to get in that good aerobic base, get their kind of nutrition under control before you felt it was proper to give them the TRT or to get their blood work done even at that stage?
Sure. I usually tell guys it takes about 90 days to really start seeing and feeling the results. Obviously, some guys are faster than that. Some take a lot longer. It depends on where they're starting from. If they're over 20% body fat, it's going to take a little bit longer than if they're under and they're coming to us because they want to look even more shredded or something like that, and they just did it the wrong way. Aerobically, the adaptations take between 8 and 12 weeks. Usually the most sucky phase is the first phase, because it's what guys don't want to do, but it's what they need the most, which is higher reps, more aerobic conditioning. Once we get through that, those adaptations stick for a little bit longer. We can actually maintain that through doing more intense cardio that's shorter, not as boring, all of that stuff. But it's hard to give a timeline, as you know, because everybody wants to know, how long will it take me to look X? Well, how consistent are we going to be? Are we going to be compliant throughout this entire process? And where is our starting point? Those are kind of the three big rocks that we have to tackle initially. But I say, don't think of this as something that has a start and end point. Don't think of this as a timeline where all of a sudden you end and then you can go back to your previous habits. I look at this as a long-term commitment. Just like you said, year 3, I'm on year 6. This is a lifelong lifestyle that somebody has to change. And quite frankly, this comes around full circle when men have to change their identity, in a sense, where if they're not a fitness person and all of a sudden they have to be a fitness person, they may get pressure socially from their inner circle, from people who don't understand why they're doing what they're doing, or who are highly triggered because they can't bring themselves to do what these guys are doing, which we see a lot. And I find myself having that conversation a lot more often nowadays because it's something that's unexpected and can be quite annoying for men, but they have to be prepared for it because that does happen.
It's 100%. It's happened to me, and it's hard in the beginning. But then when you understand that they don't understand your goals and that the way you feel, and then once you start going through the transition of feeling better, you start to forget about what they're saying. But yes, that is true. We always tell people your environment will be the hardest thing to break because the friends that you have know you as the old you. And as you try to let go of your snakeskin and change, there's going to be a lot of people who are either going to support you or don't support you. And they're going to either sabotage your goals and just ask you why you're doing it. And they just don't understand it because they haven't done it themselves. All right.
Exactly.
I want to just touch on one thing there because you said that you get them doing higher reps, you get them in really good shapes. Just so people are aware, you probably put them then at a good maintenance load of calories. You're not cutting their calories right from the get-go, which is what people want to do, right? They walk in probably and they're like, how do I just cut my calories and go to the gym? Are you putting them at maintenance? Are you putting them in a calorie deficit in the first, depending on their starting point? But I'm just talking about that person who's probably 25% body fat, 45 years old, maybe was an athlete when they were younger, but now they haven't really trained or anything for 10 to 15 years. And now they're getting back into it, but they have that old athlete mindset. So you'd be putting them in a calorie deficit from the get-go, or would you just be trying to find them a good maintenance and make them feel great in the first 2, 3, 4 weeks?
It depends where they are. We do have guys track for about a week just to see where they're falling naturally.
Gotcha.
And like you said, everybody's low in protein. Most people are eating way more fat than they realize, and carbs can just be kind of all over the place. We actually leverage protein. We make it very high because it's going to cause satiety. It's going to also increase the calories they burn just eating because protein is so hard for the body to metabolize and turn into body fat that literally you could overeat protein and be okay. If somebody is that high body fat percentage, carbs are going to be very low, fat is going to be moderate, and protein is going to be pretty high. This naturally will likely put them in a deficit, but they're not going to feel like it because they're eating so much protein that they're going to be full. We start them that way. Now, if somebody is in a very deep deficit already, we've had guys come to us eating like 1,400, 1,700, all these crazy low amounts. Obviously, we can't start dieting from there because then we're going to be 1,100 to try to get them to lose. So we do have to increase calories quite often. However, if somebody has a lot of body fat to lose, they can do okay in a pretty steep deficit for a while because they have a lot of stored energy that they have to burn through. Then that we can get into a better condition.
What is the body fat that you find that you feel is where someone is in pretty good shape? What's your standard that you would say that you...
For most men, about below 20%. We want them to shoot towards 15%. We get a lot of guys that are around 20 to 25. We don't get a ton of very obese men. We get guys that are kind of teetering on the edge that basically their way of trying to get abs and get leaner is slashing calories absurdly. As you know, that is, it works, but until it doesn't, and then they have nowhere to go. We try to get them to go towards 15, which may seem like, oh my God, that's super low. It really isn't. In a man, it's you have visible abs by then. It might be 2-pack, but that's okay. But if you can't see your abs because of body fat, then that is something that says, all right, cool, we got to get you down lower. Because I don't need somebody to go measure their body fat. We can usually do the eye test where visually, where does somebody sit? Where are they storing their fat? A lot of men love handles, belly, back fat. Those are really big things that they're trying to get rid of, but they do it by over dieting. They end up smaller or skinny fat, and then they get very frustrated. So then they're told, well, you have to bulk now. So then they eat too much, gain too much fat too quickly. And then the vicious cycle starts where then they over diet again, and then they end up in the same place without any muscle gain. And that's why it's important to see this whole process as a long-term thing, because this does not happen very quickly. As you know, body fat is super easy and quick. Gaining muscle is a very glacially paced process.
Yeah, we hear that a lot. We do the in-body and we do calipers, and we usually tell people 14% is where a lot of our guys tell us they feel comfortable. Taking off their shirt, they can still have a meal here and there off, and they feel great. Once people are going into single digits, it's not fun, right, to get there, but That 14 to 15% is exactly where I find a lot of our male clients tell us they have a good balanced life at that point, right?
Yeah,
What
I would
are
agree.
So what would you say are, so obviously you first get them in physical shape, you want them to track their calories, and then you want to get their cardiovascular up. Then from there, you would look into TRT, and then you want to make sure their body fat is 15%. So then what would be something that when you start to look at TRT, what are some of the positive things we talk about? What are the three positive things that you've heard from clients once they actually got to 15% and then brought in the TRT? What are some of the positives that people have given you feedback as results?
Number one is always the mental clarity. So it is a huge enhancer cognitively. And all of a sudden they're like, I can focus. I have more motivation. I feel like I know what my purpose is a little bit more, or at least they can carry that out. And this is at work, this is at home. It's kind of all across the board where it enhances their ability to actually get shit done. Before, usually it's low motivation, they just can't focus, it's a lot of brain fog. And those are really aspects of TRT that people don't realize because they think of testosterone, physical, I'm going to look like this. And it's not necessarily what happens. And I will preface this with 15% body fat's not a pre-qualifier for TRT, but that's something that will actually make the process a little bit easier. And there are guys that do go on it when they're heavier, and that's okay. But those are really the big rocks that guys experience, and they have more energy and they can recover a lot better from their training, and they don't feel like they're just going through the days, just going through the motions.
We have a client that's taken it and he said, Harry, I'm 50 years old. I own 5 restaurants. He goes, I can work 16 hours a day with 1 cup of coffee, still work out and feel great the next day. I'm like, who wouldn't want that? You've probably also seen a great thing with mood. So lots of men obviously suffer from depression and different fluctuations in mood. You probably have heard that guys who come in low mood, low motivation, they started taking it and they started to notice a difference. How long would somebody notice a difference when taking something like that? It's obviously not going to be next day. Would it be 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Because what will happen is why I'm asking this question is people start upping the dose on their own, right? To kind of get that feeling. They're like, oh, well, I've listened to all these podcasts. I'm not getting the energy yet. How long would you recommend to your client before making an adjustment? Would it take to make a change to the actual dosage itself?
At least 90 days. I mean, we have guys that like after their first shot, they're like, I felt amazing. I slept so well. I'm like, cool. Listen, I'm on TRT. When I first started, I was like, oh shit, I feel amazing and slept really well that night. Whether that's placebo or not, who cares? It's something that's positively affecting them. Usually 90 days is when blood work is also repeated in the United States, at least with most clinics and telehealth providers. I would say give it at least that long because there's guys that are like 4 weeks and they're like, I don't know what I should do. Should I up my dose? And it's like, why? And it usually is tied to a physical thing. I don't look any different. It has nothing to do with that. It's literally, that's not something that warrants you to up the dose. And quite frankly, increasing the dose can backfire on some guys because it is a very sympathetic hormone, which means that it can put you in more fight or flight, that can make you more stressed and more like, and stuff like that. And then guys can experience things such as premature ejaculation or even suppressing their sex drive. And then they get all freaked out because they're like, oh, this isn't working. It's actually hurting me and stuff like that. Don't increase your dose unless there is an actual reason for it and give it enough time. Patience.
I think your theme is 90 days. Really kind of, there's a theme around there. So I like that. It's like 90 days of, GPP, 90 days of starting testosterone. Now we can start to have a really good vision of what your body's actually doing, which is good because that's half the year, right? So it's a good 6 months. All right. So what are 3 lifestyle changes you make for clients that you've seen improve their blood work, right? Because I'm sure you see a lot of blood work. What are 3 lifestyle changes that you have to make and clients give you feedback that it's actually helped them?
Getting body fat down, obviously that improves testosterone, it improves inflammation markers in their blood work, it improves any insulin or glucose issues that we're dealing with. That can come in the delivery method of walking more, just moving more. Again, not being aware of like what somebody's doing. Tracking food is one way to look at that, but also, are you moving a lot? That's where steps come in. I mean, 10 years ago, we wouldn't think to say, oh, I'm tracking my steps. Like it sounds so weird, but that's how little people move, especially up where you guys are, where it's freezing cold. Like nobody wants to leave their house. And that's a big part of it, is just getting them to move more. They get almost addicted to it, even though it seems like aerobic work, like I hate this and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden they're like, don't take it away from me, because they love it, because it provides those endorphins. It also helps them think through things. I know me personally, when I'm either going on a walk or I'm doing cardio, a lot of my best ideas come to me during that time. They love that stuff. I would say also just addressing sleep hygiene. I don't really biohack sleep. I'm not like, all right, let's take this bucket of supplements to try to force you to go to sleep, because that can also backfire. Usually sleep is a byproduct of more aerobic conditioning, and we keep going back to the aerobics. And then also, if they do drink alcohol, we cut that out. I am very, very big on that. It does nothing to provide any benefit for somebody's body composition journey. It is toxic. There are ways that we have to get around that. And we have a lot of guys that have to go drink with clients or, in social situations. And there's ways to navigate that. We could switch up to soda or soda water or something like that. But if a guy's drinking alcohol, that's something that absolutely has to be addressed, because that is going to literally extend the process and make this take 10 times longer.
So you're saying zero, not even one drink per week, nothing, just zero.
I would like them to start, at least start at zero. We can work it back in if we have to.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah.
All right. No, but I'm happy you addressed that, because a lot of guys do drink, right? And they always say, oh, what's one drink? What's two drinks? And, I have an Oura ring, and a lot of my clients do. And my clients who cut the most alcohol last year all had Oura rings, because they saw how it affected their sleep quality. And that sleep hygiene IQ that they learned about what to eat before bed and how their heart rate was affected and how much alcohol affected their sleep and the way they felt the next day, they were actually blown away by what one alcoholic drink can actually do. I'm happy you touched on that. So the three things are move more, sleep, and cut out alcohol are three things that you really push for. Now, you said one thing there about supplements. What are three supplements that you would recommend to guys to take, that you, again, gotten feedback from people that actually they noticed the difference while taking them?
I would say, most guys want to take certain supplements piecemeal, and they don't take a multivitamin. And a good quality multivitamin is fantastic, and it covers a lot of bases. I don't know why guys are kind of reluctant to do that. We'll have them on a good quality multivitamin, vitamin D, because everyone becomes deficient in that. And fish oil is usually a good way to reduce inflammation and also get healthier fats in them. Creatine's a good one. I know you said three, but
that's
creatine's
okay.
got a lot of benefits that are beyond in the gym. It's got a lot of brain health benefits and stuff like that. And then if there's anything else that they need, maybe they need magnesium. A lot of guys don't take enough magnesium. We deplete that through exercise, through just living. I would say like those are kind of the standard ones that we would have guys take, because usually people don't really take anything that covers a lot. And then if they need anything based off their blood work, we could add that too.
Gotcha. What are three things that you do for your health every day that are non-negotiables that you do no matter what? Good day, bad day. You traveled. I know that we were connected from our media guy, like you traveled to Florida. What are three things that you do for your health every day that you non-negotiable, you do it?
Oh, I have to move. I am very pedantic with my training. I block out training in my schedule so that nobody can touch it, because I'm not the only one with access to my calendar. Things will get put in there. Meetings will get put in there. You do not touch that time that is blocked off. If I don't get to the gym, it's also part of my brand, right? I have to look a certain way to do what I do. And it's also for my mental health. That's a non-negotiable. Granted, if I travel and I have to switch days around, that's totally fine. But there's always a way to get out activities. When I was at the event where I met Frank, I got up at 5 every day to be able to hit the gym, because we went from 9 to like 9 p.m. both days. So those are obviously really long days, and sleep kind of takes a hit, but that's okay. It's the discipline and knowing that, hey, if you have a couple days of bad sleep, it's okay. You won't die. You can still go to the gym, even though the sleep is crappy on your Oura ring or whatever. It's still about the repetition and the discipline that you're showing. Those are non-negotiables for me. When I travel, I look at where I'm training, where I can fit that in. And then with food too, I utilize food delivery services, Instacart or Uber Eats or something to make sure that I can take care of all of that. But if I don't get outside every day, like it's been raining here in Florida the last few days, it's been miserable. But yesterday it poured rain all day long. And I was just like, you know what? I'm supposed to do sprints today. I'm not going to do them. I could have gone on my assault bike in the garage. I just didn't want to. Finally, at 6 p.m., the rain let up and I was like, all right, it's 6 p.m. I didn't get to bed till 11 because I get wired if I train after like 5, but I got it done. That's all that matters.
So movement is number one. Organizing your food, I guess, is number 2. And then getting outside is your number 3.
Yeah, or getting to bed at like a good time, right? I don't socialize very late anymore unless it's like a special occasion or something. Like I get made fun of because I've said on videos before, like I don't go to dinner past 7 p.m. And I don't know anybody that enjoys going out to dinner at like 7:30, 8 p.m. because you know that shit's not ending till like 10. And then it's like you need time to decompress. I'm big on like 5 p.m. Like my husband and I will make reservations for 5 or 5:30 because then we get home, we can walk with the dog for an hour or so and then chill and then go to bed. It doesn't have to be this. You get home at 11, you're full, and then it's just So
you and my wife would get along great because she is like, why are we eating dinner? And she's like 5 o'clock, and I'm Indian, right? If you know anything about Indian culture, it's if you say invite people over for 6 or 7 o'clock, everybody shows up at 8 o'clock and we eat at 10 p.m. and everybody's over. So it's always this debate of like, why are we eating dinner at 5 o'clock? Like, that's why when you say that, I'm like, oh, my wife Melissa would love that. She's big into that. Well, I really appreciate your time. This was great. How can people get a hold of you? I'm guessing you take on, you would mention to me that you have a lot of Canadian clients. How would people get a hold of you? Tell us all your handles so where people can contact you.
Honestly, the best way is Instagram. I am on there all the time, all day, every day. DM me at the Ali Gilbert, ALI, and you'll see the queen of men's health, and just DM me. I answer all my own DMs. I have conversations all day. Nothing is TMI. You will know this. Nothing is TMI in my world. If you go to my page, you will realize I am quite unfiltered, crass. I am not everyone's cup of tea, but we do provide any information very truthfully, directly. And that's what we pride ourselves on, is telling the truth so that I show up as the same person offline and in person as I am on Instagram.
I was just going to say that when you said to me that you have to work out every day, I said, if you follow her online, you will know why she has to work out every day, because you are a ball of energy. If you are looking for someone who, I think your Instagram's hilarious because it's the truth, right? Like as a practitioner, I talk like that to myself a lot, right? And I love when you kind of just let it all go because it's the truth. And you're just saying it in a way that everybody can understand it. If you do want to listen to someone who's funny and has a lot of good information to go with it, your delivery system is amazing. Make sure that you follow Ali because her information is really good. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Awesome. Thank you,
All right.
Harry.
All right. Well, thank you. All right. Appreciate your time. Okay. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.